Hello, you are listening to episode 62 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Dr. Aumatma.
It's unfortunate that a lot of times that reproductive doctors they're not focused on you having a healthy baby. They're focused on you getting pregnant.
Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hand, and welcome to the Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we dive into what makes an awesome lifestyle. From relationships to money mindset, nutrition to fitness, emotional health to peak performance, we bring you on an amazing journey to unleashing your human potential. So here's a little bit about our guest today, Dr. Aumatma. She's a holistic fertility specialist and naturopathic doctor with a master's in nutrition who has been practicing medicine for 10 years. She authored the best-selling book, Fertility Secrets, What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Baby Making, and is also a sought-out speaker on the topics of fertility, women's health, and women's empowerment. Dr. Aumatma is committed to listening deeply so that the medicine can reveal itself and be truly individualized for exactly what the person needs. Dr. Aumatma has also been awarded the Best Alternative Medicine Practitioner Award. She consults with clients locally in the Bay Area, that's in California for those who don't know, and works virtually with clients all over the world. So here she is. All right, our guest today is Dr. Aumatma. Thank you so much for being here at Lifestyle Locker Radio.
Thanks for having me here, Josh.
So you're one of our cool and unusual guests. I have so many cool people from around the world that teach different things, that do different things, but obviously all driven by the desire for natural health and doing things with an awesome lifestyle. And you're a fertility specialist. Right? Is that why I'm saying you're correct? Right.
I am.
So I want to know a little bit about your story, a little bit of your background. I mean, we don't need to start from the day you were born. We don't have to go that far back, right? But I want to make sure we kind of was this your first choice in what you wanted to do in healthcare? Is this kind of like a sidebar that wow, I found my passion? So
that's a great question. I actually went to pre-med undergrad with the intention of going to medical school. As I'm Indian in background, so my parents kind of brought me up with, you're going to be a doctor someday. And that was the only choice I had, right? So I went to undergrad, thought I was going to be pre-med, and realized that I hated it. I hated every minute of what I was learning. And I was like, I don't see how we could separate the body, mind, and spirit. So I kind of went into having three different routes and wanted to major in psychology, religion, and biology, which was a little bit tough to do, but I ended up taking lots of classes in all of them and decided that we couldn't really separate those three things for a human being. And that led to me almost graduating without knowing what I was going to be doing, because I was like, well, I have these three weird degrees and I don't know what's going to happen. And then luckily I got some info from a naturopathic college that was reaching out to all the pre-med students, and the cover said body, mind, spirit. And I was like, this is it. I opened it up and I was like, yes, this is what I need to do. So it kind of fell into my lap in a lot of ways. And I have been in it since and loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like you were just waiting for that to show up. I don't think that was by accident.
No, and it's weird. I don't know why more students don't know about it sooner. But when I was in undergrad, it was pretty not a common thing. Like a naturopathic doctor, what's that? Why would you go do that?
Yeah,
It's gotten hopefully more popular now, but
yeah, but this is the cool thing, because I'm in natural health as a chiropractor, that I think, society for the past, 150 years, or, and our grandparents, kind of were around and there was a lot of disease around, you needed like this crazy medicine to help. But because things have kind of changed with society over these, decades, that you really don't need those things. You know, it's great for emergency, you know, God forbid, like I break my leg. I'm not running to the chiropractor, you know, the ER is the first place I'm going. Exactly. And that's exactly where it belongs. But natural health, like where you are, where you live, where I live, it's where people not should want to be. I mean, they should want to be there, but they kind of need to be there because we are this being, right? That lives in this physical body.
Right.
So
yeah. It's really, it's kind of the way that I think we're going to move more and more anyway. Like, I feel like every subspecialty of, medicine has this need for natural doctors to step up and take charge and say like, hey, we're here, we can help with this, and you probably feel better in the process.
Yeah, exactly. And get healthy at the same time, right?
Right. Yeah.
So fine. Now we have a naturopathic doctor. So how did you kind of fall into fertility and pregnancy and birthing and all of this stuff?
Yeah, that's another fun question. So about 5 years ago, I was married to this guy that I was really not sure was the right person for me to be with in general, but I was definitely like, I don't know if I could have children with this man, you know? Yeah. And, everything that I had researched was like, at age 35, fertility is going to have this magical drop and that's it. You're going to be screwed if you don't have kids by then. So I was like, well, it's taken me like 5 years in this relationship. Prior to that, I dated a bunch of people for like 3 years. So the chances of me finding someone else before my eggs burn out or whatever is pretty low. And so I went back and forth with this, like, how much do I want to have children as opposed to have children with the right person? And I ended up getting to the point of like, you know what, if I do have kids, I'd rather it be with the right person. And otherwise, I'd rather maybe not have children. So we ended up breaking up. And then soon after that, I kind of, given all the research that I had been doing, I was like, why don't people realize that natural medicine can help with fertility? And like so many women are struggling, like 1 in 8 couples between the age of 18 and 35. So we're not even talking about most of the clients that I work with, but between 18 and 35, 1 in 8 have issues with getting pregnant. Wow. And that's supposed to be the fertile years.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, the point after the drop, that number goes way down in terms of what's actually possible. And then you look at IVF rates, and their success rates for women over 40 is like 3% success.
Wow, that's an expensive venture too.
Yeah, people pay $20,000 to $30,000 per cycle for a 3% possibility of having a child. And my question just became like, 1, why aren't we talking about this? 2, why aren't women being empowered to do something before they get to that point of 35, 40, where their fertility is going to drop, and really have that like fertility preservation, which I think a lot of lifestyle is about, is like, if you live natural lifestyles, most likely your fertility is going to be preserved for a longer period of time. So I kind of went into it with, I want to help people like myself who are maybe choosing to wait. And then I also want to help the women who have waited and maybe waited too long and haven't been successful with the more conventional options that they've been offered.
Yeah, it's amazing. In one of your videos that I was watching, you said something that was really neat, and I'm not going to quote you the right way, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. You work on creating the circumstances to have the baby, like the life
Mm-hmm.
circumstances. So it's not just, maybe eat this or go walk a half a mile a day or
Right.
It's a lot
Yeah.
goes into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of, I was saying this to someone this morning. Actually, they want to do like a CBS special or something. So I was talking to the guy and I was like, if we actually get to the root of why people are unable to get pregnant, then it becomes really obvious and really apparent what they can do to kind of rebalance their body. And the outcome should not only be that you have a baby, but that you have two really healthy parents that are going to parent this child. So it's like the bigger vision is to really have healthier families rather than to produce a child, which is, it's not bad. It's just different. It's a different intention.
That's really neat. And I've spoken with my patients, maybe not directly that way, but you saying that, I'm thinking that I have women that have been on IVF, right? And I'm like, so what is your husband doing? What do you mean? What is he doing? Is he like doing a detox? Is he,
no, he's
and
the
it's like,
donor.
no, he's drinking beer and eating Doritos. I mean, like, what else should he be doing? I'm like, oh,
right.
So,
right.
Like you saying, having a healthy couple can have the best opportunity to ultimately have a healthy family, right? A lot of the burden I see gets put on the female, the woman.
The woman,
right? And the men just kind of sit on the sidelines. And for you guys listening, pay attention, right? It's not all about you, right?
Yes.
So,
yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think to add to that, it's really like, you can have a healthy couple physically, and then what comes to mind is also emotionally and spiritually. So to really have like a solid relationship that produces this child who's going to, hopefully this family will be together for a really long time. And I had a couple maybe 6 months ago that I started working with. And they literally came in for their first visit. My first visit is usually like 4 hours. So I'm sitting there talking to them, and 2 hours in, the guy is like all this resentment and anger and frustration bubbles up out of his being. Yeah. And I was like, oh boy, this is really not good. And he's like, well, I just can't believe I was ready to have kids like 10 years ago, and she's made me wait, and now we don't have kids. We don't even have one child, let alone the 3 that I want. And I was just like, oh my God, you guys need a therapist. You don't need me, you need a therapist. And literally like 7 hours later, that visit ended up being my whole day. 7 hours later, we finally got to a place where he was willing to like even put aside the resentment so that we could work through it later. But it was a lot. And that couple, at the end of those 7 hours, I was like, okay, so are we staying together or are you guys splitting up? Because that needs to happen before you get pregnant.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
So just like real conversations about emotions, and the stuff like fertility is such an emotional journey in general. So the stuff that kind of builds up that no one is really looking at, they're just like on this road of we're going to get pregnant, we're going to get pregnant, we're going to get pregnant. But nobody's talking about the other stuff, which is a lot of the equation. So in order to have that healthy couple, it's, yes, you've got to get physically healthy, and then also like make sure that we don't have these bottled up emotions. A lot of times it's the woman that's like, well, he gets to sit around and do nothing and drink beer. Like, what's up with that? So, and then the woman's getting resentful that she has to do all the work. And nobody's talking about it, right? Like, they don't talk to each other about it. They're just like, well, let's just have this baby and it'll be all better. But that's not actually always true. So, yeah. as much as we can work through before they get pregnant,
Yeah,
the
that
less
sounds like
they have to do on the other side.
exactly. So, and also, so this is pretty neat. So we're kind of diving in a little bit, and I know you do a lot of things. I know this is not just a conversation about being healthy. That's not how you practice. That's the beginning, right? Right.
Yeah,
So,
that's
I
the
mean,
beginning.
as a naturopathic doctor, you're using things like herbs and nutrition, maybe homeopathy, right? And I actually heard you say something called body talk. When you mentioned the central
Yeah.
nervous system, my eyes lit up. I was like, ooh, I got to hear more about this stuff. So kind of talk about like some of the, I don't want to say the word therapies, but some of the things you're doing, the modalities you're using to help people kind of break through some of their fertility problems, or maybe even things that are helping people so they don't have them to start.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'll go from the most tangible scientific to the most woo, I call it. I
All right.
literally call it
I like
woo.
the word woo. I've used it before in the podcast. I'm all for it. Let's go.
So the most tangible scientific are the things that are um, like lab tests, functional medicine, right? And
Hmm.
I'm sure you're familiar with that term. It's like
Yes.
really diving into the physiology of what's happening. And that could be anything from like nutritional deficiencies to hormonal imbalances to having like food sensitivities. So we kind of dive into any layer of that I kind of get a hint in the first visit that we need to dive into.
Okay.
Um, and then after we do that layer, we do a detox. So every couple has to do the detox.
Awesome.
And notice I said couple.
Yes, exactly.
Every couple. And I've had people in the past that are like, the woman calls and says, "Oh, my husband can't participate. Can you just work with me?" No, no, no. Go somewhere else, because if your partner is not on board with this, that tells me right off the bat that you guys are at a different level of investment into having this child.
Yeah,
Um,
I like that term.
and
Different level of investment. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it's,
yes, and that's as opposed to the couple that was in here yesterday. I just like they came in for create a baby making plan for 2018. I'm doing that through December, and they came in. They wanted to have this appointment, and within 30 minutes, they were like, "Okay, where do I sign up?" And the guy said it first, and I was like, "Okay, yes, let's do this. This is going to be really good."
yeah.
Um, so it's anyway. So back to the therapies. We'll do the detox and then the rebalance phase, which is where we address all of the hormones, the um, kind of with herbs, homeopathy, nutrition, lifestyle, exercise. We kind of do the whole gamut. Um, and then the last phase is where the body talk comes in, and that's probably my favorite. And that's where we do the mind body connection.
That's the
So
woo stuff.
the woo, the very woo. And I have a lot of like we live in the Bay Area, so um a lot of the Silicon Valley guys will come in, they're super techied out,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're like, what is this thing you're gonna do on me? And they're really like, I'm not so sure about this. And I'm like, just go with it. Like, if you don't feel anything, it's completely okay. And a lot of guys, I have had quite a few guys that actually have chronic pain or weight issues or things that aren't necessarily affecting their sperm, but I'll treat them for their pain anyway, because if you're in chronic pain, one of these guys, chronic pain, he couldn't lift up his 3-year-old, and he had this major what we discovered with through body talk was that he had a major fear of being the older dad. And the point at which he was coming to see me, he was 49. So I'm like, well, surely you're going to be a 50-year-old dad. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way around this. And he was basically like, really, I'm not so sure about this body toxin. Can't you give me a pill for this? And I was like, listen, you're already taking pills. You're on Vicodin.
Mm.
And you have an osteopath who kind of like has you coming in twice a week, but it barely stays for 24 hours and then you're back in pain again. So let's see if we can get to the root of it. And sure enough, the root was this intense fear of being the older dad, like his dad had been. And so we worked through it. 6 weeks later, he's out of pain, off the Vicodin, not
Awesome.
with pain coming back, reoccurring all the time. And it was with the body talk that he really like had the breakthrough, because it's a technique that can really help to kind of zone in on it what it is that the body is telling you as a symptom, that is under, like, what's the story that's underlying that? What's the emotion? What's the stuckness,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word, that is, if we are able to get to it and listen to the body and free that emotion, it kind of vanishes, right? Like the whole story
Yeah.
dissolves and you're not in pain anymore.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. So we, in my profession, chiropractic, we talk about the body healing from the inside out. And it doesn't
mm,
really happen any other way. The body does the healing, not the drug or not the X or the Y. Everything that
right,
goes into the body is
right.
used either for good or the body's going to fight against it. So that's pretty neat that you were honing in on the central nervous system to kind of let the body do what it needed to do. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool stuff. So
Exactly.
it's really sciencey in a way, even though it sounds woo. It is sciencey, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It, so
There is science to it. I
of
I couldn't
course.
explain the science very well, but there is science there.
Awesome. Awesome. So you mentioned doing some of the testing you would do would be for hormones,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Are there certain things that I'm thinking in my head? I'm thinking of like the stress hormones, like cortisol and adrenaline, like these things that are pumping all the time. I know a lot of people, and I could be totally wrong with what you're going to tell me, but I'd imagine just in the world we live in now that those hormones are running full. I mean, I know this for a fact that they're running rampant, right, through our society. And that's not going to, like, I don't know if you've ever heard the term, people say if you're not growing, you're dying, like at a cellular level, right? Am I like preaching
Yeah,
to the choir here a
yeah,
little bit?
yeah. No,
Okay.
it's absolutely true.
So
It's so true.
when you look at hormones, are those ones you're looking at, or are there the traditional reproductive hormones? Like, what do you see more imbalanced?
Yeah. Well, I think for fertility, it's a whole imbalance. Like adrenals are almost always off, right? It's women that have had these like high-powered CEO type jobs that have like pushed off their baby making till later and then have difficulty getting pregnant. So already their adrenals were taxed. Then you add to it, usually the second layer of hormone imbalance is the thyroid. And then the third layer is the reproductive hormones. So by the time they have fertility issues, they actually have all three of those layers are kind of messed up,
Oh, wow.
unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I believe it.
So yeah, yeah. And it's often like I have this patient, she's only 38, which is kind of intense. 38-year-old, her ovaries look like they're 47. Um,
Wow.
she
Premature
has,
aging, right?
yeah, she has zero eggs left. And God bless her, like she's been a midwife her whole life, like for the last 20 years. So she is literally like, um, has been like kind of using her adrenaline to force out her energy to be able to sustain birthing
Yeah.
tons and tons of babies for her entire life. And it is, I'm like, well, this is taking a toll on you. And when I first started working with her, I was like, are you sure you're not tired? Like something like, are you sure this is not you're lacking the resources? And she's like, no, I'm not tired. I sleep really well. She has like zero adrenal symptoms.
Hmm.
And then finally, like 3 weeks ago, I was like, let's just do the adrenal test. Let's just see what it looks like. And sure enough, her cortisol is 0. Like, she has 0 cortisol. And I'm like, okay, so if we can rebuild your cortisol, more likely than not, you're going to have some reviving of your ovaries.
God. That's
So
amazing.
yeah.
I mean, someone that's doing like this natural health, like a midwife, right? That's crazy.
Like she's been like helping these amazing babies be born all around the world. She's like travels and does this thing all over. She's amazing. And at the same time, I'm like, this is taking a toll on your body. Like, you cannot do this and sustain this kind of lifestyle forever.
That's 100% true. I mean, I don't think anybody in any profession, myself, yourself, we go hard because we have a passion for what we do, and it can be taxing, without a doubt.
And it just goes to say, like, all of us need to find that resourcing also, right? Like, I have a chiropractor, a massage therapist, like,
totally.
And it was funny because my chiropractor, I've been going to him for like a year plus, and he's like, oh, you don't do enough. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you need like massage and acupuncture. He's like, I do all of these things every single week. And I was like, are you serious? I had this moment of like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough self-care.
We use this phrase in our practice, and it's from a friend of mine. His name is Dr. Eric Plasker. He says the more intense your lifestyle, like the harder you're working, in all areas, the more intention you need to have that self-care and regular care too, not just self-care, all of the, healthcare and self-care. So I agree. It's a challenge for me as well.
Yeah. As a practitioner, I'm like the worst patient ever. Right? I'm like, oh my God, I have to go to all these appointments now.
The vulnerable side's coming out, right?
Yeah.
Totally. So let's jump back in. This is good. Back on your website, and I'm going to keep referencing this, but I think your website is fantastic. The content is really, really good for anybody that'll be able to, just poke around. They'll get what you do. They know your mission. They know all the things you're doing. But I love what you have on the top. It says, have a baby naturally. I'm like, okay, cool. And then it says no drugs or IVF, no egg freezing, no guessing games when you're ready. So can you kind of hit on those 3 bullets, like the no drugs or IVF, the no egg freezing, and no guessing games? I know we kind of did like an umbrella talk about it, maybe all of them, but kind of jump in a little bit.
Yeah. So the no IVF, no injections, no drugs, that kind of is not that I'm completely opposed to those modalities. I feel like they have a place. But what I find often is that people go from 0 to 120 within minutes, right? There's this sense of like, oh, it's not happening for me, so I'm going to go to IVF. And what they're not thinking about is, are there steps that should be in the middle of that could potentially help them get pregnant, probably help them do it while getting healthier? And if those steps are like made conscious, would they have a very different outcome if they needed to do IVF, right? So oftentimes I'll look at people's lab test results. They almost always, most of the time, they're coming in with like, here's the stack of hormone tests that my reproductive endocrinologist already did. And I'm like, okay, great, let's look at them. And they have either low ovarian reserve, a high FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, or a high estradiol, which is the estrogen levels. And if they have any of those 3, you can't really get pregnant with IVF and have it stick. So what happens a lot, and this is the dark side, so forgive me.
Hey, listen, the truth needs to come out.
Yes, it's, it will eventually be more prominent, I hope. But it's unfortunate that a lot of times that reproductive doctors aren't they're not focused on you having a healthy baby. They're focused on you getting pregnant. So their success rate, let's say it's 10% at your age, is a 10% success rate of getting pregnant. That's not that 10% of those people actually had healthy live births. So for me, it's really like, okay, so you got pregnant, you used a bunch of hormones for them to like harvest all the eggs and kind of push your body to an extreme, which may have gotten you pregnant. And then you miscarried, or the pregnancy didn't take, or the embryo didn't grow. And could there have been other steps had you taken those things in the middle that could potentially increase your IVF outcome or increase the possibility of a positive outcome? And almost always the answer is yes, unless the woman is amazing, in amazing health, and the guy just has sperm that maybe are not as motile or as morphologically normal as they should be. That would be the only time that IVF would be like slam dunk.
Yeah.
Every other scenario is the woman's body is going to carry this child. So if she's not at optimal health, it doesn't matter. Like, she could do whatever hormones and stuff. The likelihood of that child being carried to term is really low. So that's the IVF piece. I'll pause there. Any questions?
No, I'm listening. I'm taking it in too. I'm taking it in. No, it's good.
Okay. The egg freezing is a really interesting thing because egg freezing is getting more and more and more popular. And again, my approach is that middle path. It's like, yes, it could be a good option if you have $10,000 to $20,000 to throw at that. Absolutely, freeze your eggs. Sounds like a really good, easy idea, right? If you're in your 20s and you're like, well, I'm not sure when I'm going to have babies, maybe I just freeze my eggs as a backup plan. Awesome, no problem. But a lot of times what I see is women freeze their eggs. Often they freeze their eggs too late. It's like the 35 to 38-year-old that's like, oh, I don't have a guy yet. Maybe I should freeze my eggs. And it's kind of like it's looked at as a kind of fail-safe, and it's not. The success rate, the actual rate of frozen eggs turning into live births is 1%.
Wow.
1% of eggs
gamble.
actually turn into live births.
That's like going to Vegas.
Yeah, totally.
Probably more expensive.
Right, and it's way more expensive. So when people ask me like, should I do this? I'm like, well, if you have that spare cash, absolutely do it, because it gives you a fallback plan if all the other things you do don't work. But there should be other things that you're doing. It's not just that you freeze your eggs, but that you actually take the time to learn how to live a fertile lifestyle so that when you are ready to get pregnant, it's not an issue. And if it is an issue, your body is still in a healthier state to be able to use that frozen egg to turn it into a child.
Yeah.
So that's that second piece of the egg freezing. It's like, it's unfortunate because we live in the Bay Area where Facebook, Google, you name it, all the big companies these days are paying for women to get their eggs frozen. It's part of their plan. It's part of their bonus package. And
wow, that's crazy.
It's basically a way of saying, hey, we want you to stay working for another 10 years before you decide to go have a child. So we're going to pay for egg freezing. Awesome. Pay for egg freezing, but don't make the mistake of having that be your thought process that it's going to be the ultimate, like when you're ready to have a baby, it's going to happen just like that, because it doesn't.
And if you think, right, and I'm just going to cut you off for 1 millisecond here. If these are kids or women that are in their 20s that are just out of college or possibly have been doing a lot of partying and beating their body up because they're not noticing many changes early in life, right? They're probably freezing, eggs that are probably not the ones you want to freeze anyway.
Right.
Because their body hasn't been through your detox, it hasn't been through all of these things. So it's like, cool, let's freeze these eggs and who knows what the hell's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really like, at the end of the day, even if you had the best quality eggs and you decided that after that you were going to drink, party, smoke, do whatever you felt like doing because, well, you had your egg frozen and who cares? Like, you should be able to do whatever you want for the next 10 years and then have a baby when you feel like it.
Yep.
Or even maybe you're not partying, but you're working, burning both ends of the candle.
Yep.
And you get to that point of like, oh, now I'm 45, I want to have a kid. And guess what? Those eggs are probably like, they could have been good if your body was in a good place.
Yeah.
But you worked it out on both sides for 10 years. Like, it's going to be really hard to recover from that.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, I mean, it's unfortunate because it's sold as this like quick fix of like, oh, you don't want to have a child now? Just freeze your eggs. And like, I feel passionate about it mostly because of my own story. Like, I actually considered it because I was like, how bad do I want to have this child? And what I decided was, well, I was going to try and preserve my eggs within my body. So I was going to live the lifestyle that I talk about, like do all the things that one would do for fertility. And sure enough, this is my first public place that I'm saying this.
Yeah.
We got pregnant. I'm with a partner now. We got pregnant on our first try. Yeah. So it works, but it's really like that planning and that like forward thinking of, oh, I'm going to want to have a child maybe in 5 years from now. Here are the things that I'm going to set up to do so that when I am ready to have a child, it's not an issue.
So is that something you're working with, like that type of philosophy you're working with your clients, right?
Yeah. And like, I guess I haven't had enough patience to say like, this totally works for everybody, right? But I've definitely been practicing it for myself for 5 years. I'm 37.
Okay.
So, and I'll just say like, even myself, I know what I've been doing. I've been like super on it for the last 5 years since I decided I didn't want to be with that person that I was with. And I still had the moment of, well, let's just start trying and maybe in 6 months we'll get pregnant.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Right?
Yeah. And like, who would have thought? Like, I totally was like, what? No, we can't possibly be pregnant already.
Yeah. Well, you practiced what you preached.
Like, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just it's wild. It's really wild to kind of reflect and like the amount of times that I say to women, like, just because you're over 35 doesn't mean anything. Like, doesn't have to be the end of your, your fertility or whatever. And there's still a part of me that is still brainwashed to believe that because I'm over 35, it's going to be harder. I'm going to have more symptoms. It's going to be a more difficult pregnancy. And the truth is, I've had almost no symptoms. And I went to my doctor and she's like, technically you're a geriatric pregnancy, but you're healthier than normal 25-year-old.
Geriatric.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds really nice. That's what I would want to tell a 37-year-old woman. My goodness. I think I would be punched in New York if I said that to someone who's 37.
Yeah.
God.
They tell us that's the norm. Like, if you're over 35, you're considered geriatric. Yeah. It's really wild. It's like the whole culture around fertility, pregnancy, it hasn't really, hasn't really like caught up to the times. It's almost like we still live in the ancient days where kids were like 18-year-olds were
Yeah.
getting married and having babies, and like things are really different now.
Yeah.
And our bodies have the capacity to have a child when we choose. That's at least my belief. Within reason. It's not like if you're feel 45 and don't have a period, can you get pregnant? You know, it might be pretty difficult.
Yeah. No
Like,
kidding.
let's be real. But if you're a healthy 42-year-old and don't have any hormonal issues, should you be able to get pregnant? Absolutely.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
really like rethinking and reframing how we think about fertility and what that means, and really preserving our fertility within our own bodies, regardless of whether you're doing egg freezing, whether you think IVF is the magic bullet. It's like a lot of our cultures where there is a lot of disposable income, uh, the women that I've talked to are like, "Oh, when I'm ready, I'm just gonna go get IVF. I'm not even gonna wait. Like, I just want to get IVF. I'm gonna get a C-section, and I'm gonna be done." And it's,
Man, I saw your eyes there.
yeah. I'm like, what world are we living in?
Hmm.
Um, and it's really unfortunate because even though it's a powerful medicine, I believe like for people that absolutely need it, IVF is a saving grace. And for all the people that need it, there's probably double that amount that don't need it, that
Yeah.
don't know they don't need it.
Yeah, I would probably say like the number is probably even crazier. It's probably like 5% need it, 95% don't need it. You
Yeah.
know, in the city, we take care of a lot of kids. I take care of a lot of pregnant women. I have a couple patients that are 40 that are having twins, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I hear things like this, and I'm not sure how true this is, but I've read it a couple times that New York City is going for 100% C-section rate because it's just more convenient,
Yeah,
right? And it
absolutely.
makes this amazing. And I'm a guy, so I'm never going to have a child myself, but it's this amazing thing where the two cells go to 10 trillion cells or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and this
Mhm.
living, breathing, amazing miracle of life is born. And now in our modern society, it's now we get pregnant, whether it's like by computer or robot,
Mhm.
and then we have this disease cut out of us in 9 months just so we can make sure our body looks okay. And it's easy and for the doctor and for myself. I can just schedule it just in case I
Right.
got to go to Hawaii in a few months
Yeah.
type of thing. And, it's sad, but I
Yeah.
think, like you said, the tide has to, when the tide goes out, it shows everything.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think we're going to see a shift and a consciousness hopefully change where like you're going to be too busy to do anything, where you're going to have to hire 10 of you to work because
Yeah.
people need to do healthy things.
Right. Yeah. And I hope that, my goal is that we as women become more empowered to know the facts. Not even, it doesn't matter what you choose, but to just know the facts.
Yeah.
One of my best friends just literally had a baby today, and her doctor, this like pissed me off beyond belief. Her doctor literally said, "Oh, we should get your baby home before Christmas." She was due on Christmas or the day after Christmas. She's like, the doctor said, basically, let's just have a C-section so you could be home before Christmas. She's
Convenience.
Muslim.
Yeah.
She's Muslim. I'm like,
Oh
what do
my
you care about Christmas?
God.
Like, who
Well, it was
cares?
probably more so he can go on his vacation,
Right.
you know?
Exactly. Yeah, and the sad part of it is like C-sections pay more than births.
Of
So
course.
it's
Surgery.
like way better to cut it out than to have a
Yeah.
live birth.
And we can go
It's
down this
less
rabbit
time
hole
consuming.
for a long
Yeah.
time. I think we're on the
Like,
same team here.
yeah.
God, yeah, it is. It's a sad, but when just so I want to circle back when you said like with age, I think it's becoming, and you see this probably more than I do, but a lot of my patients that I see that are pregnant are in their 30s. A lot
Hmm.
of them, I would say probably the majority of them. And my my thought also is that some of the younger generation that is actually deciding to do things naturally, deciding to be healthy, they may be getting into relationships later in life, but also the longevity of a human being, of a healthy person, is 100 plus years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're 35 or 38 or 40 and have a kid, I mean, okay. I mean, it's, it's like when our lifespan was 65, having a baby at like 16, 17, or 18 was important.
Right.
Otherwise, you get a handful of years and it's like, see you later type of thing,
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But so let's kind of wrap things up a little bit. I think we could probably have a long talk for a long time. And, we're kind of like pushing my limit on the podcast, not for me, but our overall time.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But so let's do this. You have, I mean, like I'll say this again and again, people need to go look at your website just because you have such really cool things. I know you're going to give something away. We'll talk about that in a second, which I think is very cool. But can you give 3 things for the new mom or the future mom, 3 things that they could do proactively, just maybe starting today, simple things that they could say, all right, I need to do this today?
Yeah. Well, I think the first would probably be to get really good quality sleep. So make sure that your sleep, when you wake up in the morning, you actually feel rested. If you don't, find a functional doctor that will help you, because the quality of your sleep and how rested you feel is probably the number one predictor of health, life, longevity, as well as fertility. The second would be to drink plenty of water. The number of women that I see that are like, oh, I'm not getting pregnant. And I'm like, you're super dehydrated. Like, I can tell by looking at you,
Wow.
And you probably don't have enough blood flow and circulation and energy flowing to your ovaries. Like, it's going to be impossible for you to get pregnant. So drink enough water. And then the water thing comes really super into play while you're pregnant as well. So it's just a good lifestyle habit to have. And then the third would be probably like eliminating as many of the toxins that we can in and from our lifestyle, diet, environment that we can possibly eliminate. And with that, you can probably you can look a lot of these things up, but that's kind of why I wrote the Diva's Detox Guide, the ebook. It's a really great start to having an overview of the stuff that is in our environment. For women, a lot of times it comes in through our makeup and our stuff that we put on our skin, but it's really relevant for guys as well. It's coming in from all kinds of things. And the toxins are probably affecting our fertility the most. So as much as possible, getting rid of those toxins is a great first step, and will kind of help to support your fertility for the long term.
Right, and that's
probably good for the baby too.
Yeah, probably, right?
Yeah.
So this Diva Detox, good for men and women.
Yes.
Right. Good for men and women. But that's the giveaway. So we're gonna have all of Dr. Aumatma's stuff, all of her links, all of these. Well, the giveaway, of course, is going to be found at lifestylelocker.com/Dr. Aumatma. All right, and you're going to find all the details there. I'm going to put her cell number. We're going to put. No, I'm just kidding. We're not putting any of the stuff I asked for.
Oh, I was like,
what? No. But if you're in the Bay Area and you're in need of her specialty, I would highly recommend giving her a little hello. And once you look at her website, you're going to be sold anyway. You're going to be sold. And if you're listening to this, if you're not already, I don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah. And if you're not in the Bay Area, we work with people everywhere. I'm one of only 4 naturopathic doctors that does fertility specialty. So we see people from all around the world.
All right. So you could do stuff via Skype as well, I imagine.
Yeah.
And phone. Yeah. Wow, way cool. Well, okay, good. I was wrong. This is pretty awesome. You go far reaching. So I want to thank you also so much. This was a great conversation. I have a feeling that, if I didn't look at my timer, It would have been like it's almost 6 o'clock here in New York. It could have been like 7:30 or 8 o'clock. We would still be ranting, or you would have been in trouble too. But
yeah,
thank
it
you
was
so
a fun
much.
conversation. Yeah, yeah, I really appreciate being just in conversation with other professionals is great, and hopefully we've touched the lives of many, many, many people today.
Yes, I hope so. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of Lifestyle Locker Nation, thank you so much for listening in with Dr. Aumatma, the California naturopathic doctor and fertility specialist. She is giving away the Diva Detox Guide. It's for both men and women. It's going to be good for both of you. Both can be divas. If you guys are focusing on fertility, getting pregnant, this is fantastic for you. Even if you have not or are not trying to get pregnant, a detox is a fantastic thing to do for your health and for your life. And on another note, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for Lifestyle Locker Radio in iTunes and Google Play. If you have not done that yet, make sure you do give us a 5-star review on iTunes. And also, realize the podcast is for free. So if you do find value in what you're listening to in this episode and others, please share it socially with your friends, family, and anyone else you think I can help. On that note, Locker Nation, have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.